Laura Bennett stood at the edge of the observation deck aboard the human ship Aurora. The stars stretched endlessly before her, a sea of light in the black void. She had been on many missions before, but this one felt different. The Dravic Empire had long been a thorn in humanity's side, and King Vorth had gained a reputation for cruelty and cunning. Now, she was to meet him face to face, not as a soldier ready to fight, but as a negotiator, a human envoy. It was supposed to be a diplomatic mission, but Laura knew the danger was real. She had faced impossible odds before, and this would be no different, General, said Captain Eric Harrison, stepping up beside her. The Council wants you ready in 30 minutes. They are insisting you meet him on his flagship. They say it's a gesture of trust. Laura nodded, not taking her eyes off the stars. Trust is dangerous when dealing with someone like Vorth, she said. Her voice was calm, steady. There was no fear in her tone, but there was also no doubt about the risk. She had studied the Dravic for years, learning their ways, their strategies, their prideful nature. She knew that to face their king was not simply a matter of words. It was a test of intelligence, patience, and control. Eric glanced at her, sensing the weight she carried. We have a small team with you, Lieutenant Claire Davis, and the tactical unit will be there. You won't face him alone. Laura turned to him, a faint smile on her face. Good, but even if I were alone, I would go. This mission is too important to delay. She looked back at the stars. If we fail, it's not just humans who will suffer. Countless colonies are depending on this. The shuttle docked with the Dravic flagship, a massive structure that looked like it had been pulled from the depths of a nightmare. Its surface was dark, jagged, almost organic in shape. Laura could feel the power emanating from it even before stepping inside. The Dravic were not gentle rulers. They believed in dominance and fear, and their fleets were deadly. Their technology, though not as refined as humanity's in some ways, was brutal and effective. As the hatch opened, Laura led her team through the narrow corridor. The Dravic guards watched silently, their elongated faces and sharp eyes following every movement. They did not speak, only observed. Laura kept her movements deliberate, steady, and calm. Every step she took was a signal. She would not show fear. Fear could be fatal in these halls. They reached a large chamber, dimly lit, with the king's throne in the center. King Vorth sat there, his eyes piercing, dark, and calculating. His body was massive, but not ungainly. There was strength in every line, every muscle, but there was also arrogance. He leaned slightly forward, resting his hands on the armrest of his throne. As if daring them to approach, Laura paused a few steps away from him, letting her team form a protective circle around her. Claire Davis, her second in command, was alert, eyes scanning every shadow. Eric Harrison positioned himself near the exit, ready to react if things went wrong. The Dravic guards flanked the walls, weapons at the ready. It was a tense moment, the kind that could explode into violence at any second. King Vorth's voice broke the silence. It was deep, commanding, with a harsh edge. You come here, human, expecting peace? You are bold, or perhaps foolish. My empire does not bow to outsiders. Laura stepped forward, keeping her hands visible. I am not here to ask for your submission, she said. Her voice was calm, steady, like water flowing over rocks. I am here to speak for humanity, for the colonies that are under your threat. We want a treaty, a way to avoid needless bloodshed. The king laughed, a low, cruel sound that filled the chamber. Bloodshed, perhaps. Or perhaps I will show you just how weak your kind truly is. His eyes narrowed. You think your humans are clever. You think you can outmaneuver me. I will remind you how fragile you are. Laura's gaze did not waver. Underestimating humans has been the mistake of many who came before you, she said. She did not raise her voice, did not make a threat, but her words carried weight. They were simple words, but the meaning was clear. Humans were not weak. Humans were not easily broken. The king rose from his throne, his movement fluid and powerful. The Dravic guards shifted, forming a tighter circle. Laura's team instinctively adjusted their positions. She knew the signs. The king intended to intimidate, perhaps to attack, but she had trained for this. She had faced overwhelming odds and lived. She had survived situations where others would have fallen in panic. Laura took a deep breath. King Vorth, I am here to negotiate, but I am also prepared to defend myself and those with me. We did not come to your planet to fight, but we will not be humiliated. The king's eyes flared. Humiliated? You dare speak of humiliation to me? He stepped closer, his massive form looming over her, though Laura remained calm. I could have you executed this very moment. Do you think your little human defenses matter to me? Laura did not flinch. She had expected this. Your guards are skilled, I see, but skill alone does not make one invincible. I know how to survive, even in impossible situations. Her words were quiet, yet every person in the room could feel their strength. They carried authority, intelligence, and confidence. Not arrogance, not carelessness, confidence. The king laughed again, this time more sharply. Confidence? I will enjoy destroying it. He signaled to his guards, who began moving toward her. Laura's team tensed, ready for whatever might come. The air seemed to thrum with tension. It felt as if the very walls of the chamber were holding their breath. But Laura did not panic. She had a plan. She had spent months preparing for the possibility that the king would betray the meeting. Every corridor, every room, every guard routine she had studied. She had anticipated attacks, traps, and even the king's personal strategies. This was not improvisation. It was preparation meeting opportunity. The first Dravic guard lunged at her. Laura sidestepped, using his momentum to push him into the wall. She didn't strike him unnecessarily. She moved with precision, almost like a dance. Each motion was calculated, defensive yet effective. Eric and Claire followed suit, intercepting other guards, forming a protective shield around her. The king's expression shifted from amusement to disbelief. You expected this? He demanded, his voice rising. No human has ever resisted my first wave. Laura's eyes met his. I expected everything, she said simply. Underestimating humans is always a mistake. Her words were short, clear, but they carried a force the king could not ignore. A small alarm went off, indicating that the humans had activated defensive protocols. Energy shields flickered into place around Laura and her team, invisible barriers that deflected the first attacks. The guards struck again and again, but each assault was met with calm, precise defense. Not once did Laura falter. Not once did she show fear. The king's face darkened with anger. His plan had been simple: strike fear, eliminate the human general, and crush the colony morale. But the plan was failing. He had not counted on the human's intelligence, her careful study of his culture, or her unwavering calm. Every move he made was anticipated. Every strike met resistance. Laura took a step forward, her voice carrying through the chamber. You see, King Vorth, humans are not fragile. We survive because we prepare, because we adapt, and because we do not let fear control us. If you wish to strike me, you will need more than arrogance and pride. For a moment, silence fell. Even the guards hesitated, sensing the shift. Laura's calm presence had changed the room's energy. The king's plan was unraveling in front of him, and he did not know what to do. The humans were not the weak creatures he had imagined. They were something far more dangerous, intelligent, disciplined, and unafraid. King Vorth took a step back, assessing her. His eyes flickered with a mixture of anger and something else, respect, perhaps, or at least recognition that he had misjudged this human. Laura did not give him the satisfaction of doubt or fear. She stood tall, unyielding, a figure of human resilience. Eric Harrison whispered beside her. She's holding her ground. Even he seems taken aback. Laura nodded slightly, not breaking her stance. Do not underestimate us. Never underestimate humanity. Her words were not a threat, not an insult, just a simple truth. The king's lips tightened. He had planned to intimidate, to dominate, and yet here he was, unable to break her spirit. It was a lesson he had never expected to learn from a human. The chamber remained tense, the stars outside reflecting faintly on the walls. Laura knew this was only the beginning. The king had not given up, but for now, she had proven one thing: humans could stand against kings, could face impossible odds, and survive. And perhaps, she thought, just perhaps, This was the moment the Dravic Empire would learn that underestimating humanity was a grave mistake. Laura took a deep breath, preparing herself for the next move. The king was still powerful, still dangerous, but she was ready. Her mind raced, calculating possibilities, analyzing his pride, and planning her next steps. This was a game of strategy, and she was far from losing. For the first time, a faint smile appeared on King Vorth's face, not of victory, but of intrigue. He realized that this human was unlike any he had faced before. She was not only alive but unshaken. The real challenge was about to begin, and the king knew it. Laura Bennett had entered the Dravic Empire not just as a negotiator, but as a force they had not anticipated, and so, the first meeting ended not with death. The doors of the chamber slid shut behind Laura Bennett and her team. The tension in the air was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. She could feel it. King Vorth was not a man to forget an insult or an embarrassment, and he had just learned that humans were not weak. He would act, and soon. Laura glanced at her team. Eric Harrison and Claire Davis stood ready, alert. They had trained for countless scenarios, but even seasoned soldiers could feel the weight of the Dravic King's power. Laura took a deep breath. She did not panic. She had a plan, one that relied on preparation, patience, and quick thinking. King Vorth paced slowly before the throne. His massive form cast shadows across the chamber, moving like a predator sizing up its prey. "You humans are bold," he said, his voice low, "dangerous. You do not fear me. That is your first mistake." He stopped and fixed his eyes on Laura. "Your courage will be your downfall." Laura stepped forward. Courage is not weakness, and underestimating humans is always a mistake. "You may try to intimidate us, but we are ready for your moves." The king laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that echoed in the high chamber. "Ready, you? You think your little tricks and shields can protect you from me?" He snapped his fingers. The walls of the chamber shifted slightly, revealing hidden weapons and guards. The king had been preparing for this moment, and now he would make his move. From hidden compartments, Dravic guards armed with energy blades and plasma rifles stepped forward. Laura's team immediately went into defensive formation. She signaled them with a quick hand movement, and shields flickered into place around them. The humans were outnumbered, but they had technology, training, and strategy on their side. The first guard lunged at Laura with a plasma blade, moving faster than most humans could react. But she was ready. She sidestepped and grabbed his arm, twisting it to make him stumble forward. Another guard tried to flank her from the side, but Eric intercepted, blocking him with an energy shield. Claire took a step back, assessing the room, looking for the king's weak points. The king's eyes narrowed. He had expected fear, panic, and chaos. Instead, he saw calm and precision. Laura was not just surviving. She was controlling the battle. Every move was deliberate, every reaction calculated. He had underestimated her, and that was a mistake he could not ignore. Laura spotted the king's pattern. He was trying to use intimidation first, then overwhelming force. His guards moved as extensions of his will, but they were predictable. She signaled Eric and Claire. "Draw them together. Let me create an opening." They move as one, carefully herding the Dravic guards into a tighter formation. Laura's team was small but efficient. Every step she took, every motion, was designed to manipulate the enemy. The guards thought they were attacking her, but she was leading them exactly where she wanted. Suddenly, the king raised his arms. Energy surged from the walls and floor. The chamber began to tremble. Laura felt it under her boots. This was more than intimidation. This was an attack designed to crush them. The floor panels lit up with energy, shooting beams toward the humans. Laura didn't panic. She had prepared for this too. "Shields up," she shouted. Her team activated defensive protocols that created temporary barriers. The energy beams hit the shields and scattered, leaving the humans unharmed. The Dravic guards hesitated, confused. They had expected humans to falter, to break, but Laura's team was steady. The king's face darkened with anger. "You survived this?" he growled. "No human has ever survived this chamber." Laura took a deep breath. "I survived because I am ready, and I will survive because I did not fight blindly. You make mistakes because you rely on strength and fear. Humans rely on strategy and adaptation. The king snarled and charged at her personally. His massive body moved with terrifying speed. Laura stepped aside, letting his momentum carry him forward. He struck the floor with a massive fist, leaving a crater where she had been standing seconds before. Eric and Claire moved to flank him, but Laura waved them back. She wanted this fight controlled. She wanted him to see exactly what humans could do. The king roared and swung again. Laura ducked, rolled, and came up behind a column. She activated a small device on her wrist, sending a pulse that disrupted the energy in the room. The beams flickered and faltered. The king froze for a moment, surprised. Humans had anticipated his attack. "You are clever," he said through gritted teeth. "Too clever for your own good." He swung again, but Laura was ready. She sidestepped and used his weight against him, guiding him forward into a structural column. The impact shook the chamber, and the king stumbled. For a brief moment, the Dravik guards looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Laura pressed her advantage. "Your strength is great, King Vorth," she said calmly, "but humans survive because we adapt. We do not rely on brute force alone." She moved forward, keeping her eyes on him. She could see his frustration growing. His pride was being challenged, and that was dangerous. But she did not falter. The king recovered quickly, swinging again, this time with more force. Laura rolled backward, narrowly avoiding the blow. Claire fired a plasma net that wrapped around one of the guards, immobilizing him. Eric used his shield to block attacks and guide other guards into Laura's traps. The humans moved like a single organism, every action coordinated, every movement calculated. The king was furious. He had thought humans would panic, but they were unshaken. He realized he had underestimated them. Every strategy he had used before to dominate other species failed here. Laura was proving that humans were not fragile, not weak, and not easily defeated. Laura knew the king relied on fear and intimidation. She had to make him act rashly. She feinted, pretending to stumble, and the king lunged forward with a roar. At the same moment, she triggered a pulse from her suit that temporarily disabled the guards' weapons. They froze, unable to move. The king's eyes widened in shock. Humans had prepared for every eventuality. Laura moved quickly, pushing forward with precision. She did not strike to kill. She struck to control, to force the king to lose balance and leave openings. She used his own weight against him, dodging and guiding his movements like a masterful dance. Every step was calculated, every action intentional. Finally, the king realized he could not overwhelm her with force alone. He was forced to retreat slightly, reassessing. Laura saw the opening. She stepped forward, her presence commanding. "King Vorth," she said, her voice steady and calm, "you cannot defeat humans with strength alone. You must understand us. We adapt, we survive, and we will protect our colonies." For a moment, the chamber was silent. Even the Dravik guards hesitated, sensing the shift. The king's plan to intimidate had failed. His pride was wounded, and he did not like it. But he was not defeated. Not yet. Laura used this moment to assess her next moves. The battle had proven her point. Humans were not weak. Humans could adapt, and humans could survive. But the real test was yet to come. The king would not stop here. He would escalate, and she had to be ready. She signaled her team. "Stay alert. This is only the beginning. He will strike again, and we must be ready." Eric and Claire nodded, trusting her judgment. They had seen her in battle before, and they knew she was capable of incredible strategy and calm under pressure. The king narrowed his eyes. He realized something important. This human general was not like others he had faced. She was not relying on strength or fear. She was relying on intelligence, strategy, and calm resolve. And that was dangerous. Laura took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility. The colonies, the humans, and even her own team depended on her. She could not fail. But she also knew something else. Humans had a power that others did not understand. It was not raw strength or overwhelming firepower. It was resilience, adaptation, the ability to remain calm and act decisively in the face of danger. The king stepped back, studying her. For the first time, he saw the possibility that he could be challenged, not just by her, but by humanity as a whole. And that realization made him uneasy. Laura looked at him calmly. You wanted to intimidate me. You wanted to show that humans are weak. You have failed. And the lesson is clear. Never underestimate us. The king's face darkened, and the Dravik guards adjusted their positions. This was no longer a simple intimidation. This was a confrontation with consequences. And Laura Bennett had already proven that humans were not to be taken lightly. The chamber settled into tense silence, the hum of energy shields and the faint vibration of the Dravik flagship filling the air. The king was thinking, planning, trying to regain control. But Laura knew he had been shaken. She had survived his first attack, and in doing so, she had sent a clear message. Humans are not fragile. Humans are dangerous when underestimated, and the real battle was just beginning. The chamber was quiet now, but the silence was tense, full of anticipation. Laura Bennett stood in the center, her breathing steady, her mind sharp. She had survived the king's first strike. Her team, Eric Harrison and Claire Davis, remained alert, scanning the room for any sign of the next attack. The Dravik guards shifted nervously, uncertain of their next move. King Vorth paced slowly, the sound of his massive boots echoing across the chamber. His anger was visible, but so was his frustration. He had thought humans would crumble under his power. He had thought one display of strength would be enough to show them their place. But Laura Bennett had proven him wrong. Not with weapons, not with rage, but with calm intelligence and strategy. You survived the first wave, the king growled, stopping in front of her. But this is not over. You may have skill, but skill cannot replace strength. You will learn your place. Laura met his eyes, her own steady and unwavering. Strength alone is not enough, she said. Humans survive because we prepare, we adapt, and we do not allow fear to control our actions. The king's eyes narrowed, and he signaled the guards. This time, the attack was different. The chamber walls shifted, sliding panels revealing multiple hidden weapons, including energy cannons aimed directly at the humans. The floor beneath Laura and her team began to rise in sections, creating hazards meant to trap and separate them. The king wanted to overwhelm them, to force them into a corner, and then strike decisively. Laura analyzed the situation instantly. The room was designed to give the king the advantage, but she had anticipated traps like this. She signaled to her team, moving them quickly into optimal positions. Claire Davis read the energy flow in the walls, Eric Harrison guarded the exits, and Laura focused on the king's patterns. Every strike, every panel movement, every guard placement was predictable to her trained eyes. Focus, she said quietly, almost to herself. We control this, not him. The first energy cannon fired, a beam of scorching light slicing across the chamber. Laura ducked behind a reinforced column, the beam grazing the edge of the barrier without touching her. She fired a small pulse from her wrist device, temporarily disabling the cannon. Another beam fired, and she did the same. She moved with precision, guiding the team through the shifting floor. Avoiding the dangerous energy bursts, the king watched, fury growing. You are clever, he said, but cleverness will not save you. He raised his hand, and a force wave surged from the floor, attempting to knock Laura and her team off balance. They staggered but recovered quickly. Laura had trained for this. Humans did not panic. They adapted. They survived. Laura took a step forward, speaking so the king could hear clearly. Your attacks are strong, but predictable. You rely on fear, on brute power. Humans do not fear. We calculate, we act, and we survive. The king's expression twisted in anger. He lunged forward, using his massive strength to strike at Laura directly. She rolled to the side, letting his momentum carry him forward. He smashed into one of the raised floor panels, which tilted dangerously under his weight. For a moment, he lost balance, and Laura saw her chance. Now, she shouted. Eric and Claire acted immediately. Eric used his shield to block the guards rushing to help the king, while Claire fired immobilizing nets at another group of attackers. Laura moved with precision, stepping between the king and his remaining guards. She did not strike him. Instead, she used careful movements to control his position, guiding him into a corner without endangering her team. The king growled, frustrated and unbalanced. He had never faced an enemy who could withstand his strength. While controlling the battlefield so calmly, every move he made was countered before it could succeed. He was learning a lesson he had not expected. Humans were not fragile. Humans could fight not just with weapons, but with strategy, patience, and intelligence. Laura's mind raced as she assessed the king's tactics. He relied on raw power and intimidation. He underestimated humans' ability to adapt, to read patterns, to anticipate attacks. She realized that to truly gain the advantage, she had to exploit his pride. You rely on fear. She said calmly, "You think that strength alone can control the galaxy. But you are wrong. Humans do not fear. We think, we act, we survive, and we will not bow to intimidation." The king roared in anger, slamming his fist into the wall. Panels cracked and sparks flew. The guards hesitated, unsure of how to act against such precise strategy. Laura took advantage of the pause. She activated a secondary pulse, sending a brief surge through the chamber's energy conduits. The lights flickered, and the raised panels shifted, creating a safer path for her team. "Move," she commanded. Eric and Claire followed instantly. They advanced, keeping the king in sight, but not engaging him directly. Laura wanted him to make a mistake, and he was beginning to do so. Pride made him overreach. Anger made him act without thought. The king lunged again, this time swinging with full force, aiming to crush her directly. Laura sidestepped, using his own momentum to spin him slightly off course. The guards tried to intervene, but she anticipated their movements, directing them into traps and disabling their attacks with small energy pulses. For the first time, the king realized he could be challenged not just by strength, but by intelligence. He stopped for a moment, breathing heavily. Laura did not hesitate. She stepped closer, her eyes steady. "You see," she said quietly, so only he could hear. "Humans survive because we adapt. We do not rely on brute force. We use our minds. And today, you are learning that lesson." The king's hands clenched into fists. He had faced countless enemies, countless rebellions, countless warriors. And yet he had never faced one like her. She was calm, precise, intelligent, and unafraid. He had assumed she would fear him, that she would break under pressure. But she had not. Laura moved carefully, creating distance while keeping him controlled. The energy panels shifted beneath them, but she navigated the dangers effortlessly. Eric and Claire flanked her, ensuring that no surprise attacks could reach her. They had trained for countless battles, but even they were impressed by her skill in controlling the battlefield. "You will not intimidate us," she said firmly. "You will not control us with fear. You will learn that humans survive not by avoiding danger, but by facing it with intelligence, courage, and determination." The king growled again, frustrated by her words and actions. He had power, but she had control. He had weapons, but she had strategy. He had brute strength, but she had patience. And in that moment, he realized something terrifying. She might be stronger than him, not in body, but in mind. Laura saw the hesitation in his eyes. She saw the cracks in his confidence. This was her moment. She moved forward slowly, deliberately, keeping the king in sight while maintaining a safe distance. The guards were frozen, unsure how to act. Her calm presence dominated the room. "You think strength is everything," she said. "But humans have something you do not. We adapt, we survive, and we protect those who depend on us. Your attacks cannot break us, and your threats cannot scare us. You will learn respect today, not because we bow, but because we endure." The king's face darkened. His pride had been wounded, and he did not like it. But he was a ruler, and he could not show weakness. He raised his hand, signaling another attack, but Laura was ready. She had anticipated this exact moment. With a quick motion, she activated a pulse from her suit, temporarily disabling the guards' weapons. They froze mid-strike, unable to act. The king roared in anger, realizing his advantage was slipping. Laura did not attack him physically. Instead, she used her position and the chamber's hazards to force him to retreat. Every step she took, every movement, guided the king into a corner of his own making. For the first time, he was not in control. For the first time, he faced a human who could match his strength with intelligence, patience, and precision. And he did not like it. Laura stepped closer, calm and resolute. "King Vorth," she said, her voice steady, "today you are learning that humans are not fragile. We are not weak. We survive, we adapt, and we endure. And you will respect that, whether you like it or not." The king froze for a moment, absorbing her words. The guards hesitated, unsure of how to respond. The humans had controlled the battlefield, guided the king into a corner, and proven their strength through strategy and intelligence rather than brute force. Laura looked at her team. Eric and Claire nodded, ready for her signal. She took a deep breath. This was not the end, but it was the turning point. The king had made the mistake of underestimating her, and that mistake would cost him. The chamber was tense, filled with the hum of energy and the unspoken realization that the humans had gained the upper hand not through weapons, but through skill, intelligence, and unwavering calm. Laura Bennett had shown that humans could survive impossible situations, and the king was learning, perhaps for the first time, that power alone did not make one victorious. And in that quiet, tense moment, the real shift had begun. Humans were no longer just the challengers. They were a force to be respected, feared not for violence, but for intelligence, strategy, and the unyielding will to survive.